What's up, people? Today we are going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming's Blu-ray and 4K review coming up next. What's up, people? Today we are going to be getting into Spider-Man Homecoming's Blu-ray and 4K review. I am going to be breezing right past this because I still have a lot to do for you guys this week, including starting up my horror movie marathon. So we're going to be getting through this real damn quick. So to start off with the Blu-ray, just because of the fact that that is where I always start off, and this is going to be no different. So the Blu-ray for Spider-Man Homecoming is really pretty damn good, although when you look at a movie that just came out a couple of months ago, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I feel like if you put those two side by side with each other, Spider-Man just loses a little bit of steam. And a big part of that is because I don't really feel like this movie is actually shot that well. In the matter of fact, I feel like shot compositions and just overall, this movie lacks flash. This movie lacks a lot of style, especially with its visuals. There isn't a whole lot of visual style to actually talk about in this movie. But still, detail work is fine. You get a lot of detail work in the Spidey suit. You get to see all of the different ripples, and it's very textured, and it's very layered. It looks very sleek and smooth. And hey, you know what? It should be, because Iron Man gave it to him. This is actually a pretty damn bright movie, and that is why black levels are come across really damn good, just because of the fact that you don't really get a lot of them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the 4K section, but I feel like that lends itself really good to this Blu-ray just because this is the brightest of the Spider-Man movies. This is the most vibrant, and this is just the most colorful Spider-Man movie that we have had so far, and that's saying a lot just because of the fact that, you know, all of the Spider-Man movies have been really bright, but this one, it definitely sticks out the most. As far as how the CGI looks, I feel like the CGI on this Blu-ray is kind of cartoonish. I don't really feel like it blends itself as well in this transfer, and we'll talk about that in the 4K section, but they do fix that there. This transfer is just an all-around pretty good transfer that doesn't really have any flaws that pop out at you, but at the same point in time, I don't ever feel like at any point in time I just looked at it and said, wow. And for that, I do have to give it an 8. It's a solid 8. 8 isn't a bad score at all, but for a Marvel movie, I kind of expected a little bit more visual style when I saw this, and yeah, it's just not there in the movie, unfortunately. So going into the 4K Blu-ray, you know what? It definitely is my preferred method to actually viewing Spider-Man Homecoming, but at the same point in time, with all of its specs, I feel like it should have came out even better. And that is because along with HDR10, this actually comes with Dolby Vision. And actually to view this movie with Dolby Vision, I couldn't do it at my house. I had to go over to a buddy's house that I know calibrates his television the same way that I calibrate mine. That way I know that I am viewing things the absolute right way. And let me tell you, people, it looked good, but at the same point in time, when it comes to Dolby Vision, I've seen a couple of things that really popped out at me. You know, as far as like the new Power Rangers film, that also had Dolby Vision, and that was really good, especially in Dolby Vision. I viewed it on the same exact TV, and this falls more along the lines of the Kick-Ass that came out with Dolby Vision, it was just, okay. And that isn't to say that there is anything wrong with this transfer. You know, you get a lot more detail in Spidey's suit. It feels a lot more textured and layered. And with the HDR functionality, and especially with the Dolby Vision, you get a more striking Spidey suit. The colors are a lot more prominent, and it definitely pops in 4K. And then when you take a look at the CG that went on in this film, I kind of ding the Blu-ray for having kind of cartoonish looking CG, but here it is blended a lot better. Sometimes that's what's good about 4K, and that's definitely what's good about it here. And I feel like, especially when they are shooting the alien technology, all of the CG that happens, when they shoot those guns, it definitely blends in a lot better here. But other things that I was looking for is, you know, deeper black levels. And especially with Dolby Vision, more lush or more saturated colors. I feel like this transfer offers a little bit more in that department, but not enough to really stand out to the typical average Joe that just picked up a 4K Blu-ray and, hey, I'm going to get Spidey because it just came out. Yeah, you're not exactly going to get what you... this isn't going to be your showcase. This is going to be the thing that you want to show people. This isn't demo quality. And for that, I do have to give it an 8. This isn't bad. It's just, I feel like it bumps into the same problems as the Blu-ray, where this film just isn't shot to be really like visual wow. This movie is shot very workmanlike. It is get the shot, get it done, have it looking good, but don't really offer anything more. And that's just kind of how I feel about how this movie was shot in general. But next, we're going to be getting into the audio for Spider-Man Homecoming. We do have some Dolby Atmos to talk about. I love talking about Dolby Atmos, and we will talk about Dolby Atmos coming up next. So, the audio for Spider-Man Homecoming. I'll start off with the Blu-ray because that's where I always start out. This Blu-ray kind of confounded me just because of the fact that normally Disney and Marvel like to put things out in DTS HD 7.1. Guess what, people? This is actually in DTS HD 5.1. I don't know if that's a new decision that they are making to try to push people to buy the 4K material. And beyond that, I have to give this a come on, man, because that is ridiculous. But at the same point in time, I do believe in reviewing this at its level and meeting it at its own level. So, how is it in 5.1? It's fine. You know what? It's actually pretty good. And I don't feel like it suffers from some of the earlier Marvel films audio tracks. This actually hits pretty hard, and the overall frequency levels, you know, the highs, the mediums, and the lows, definitely hit pretty damn good. And I feel like if they're going to make this a 5.1 track, this isn't a bad way to go. It just sucks that it's in 5.1. And for that, I'll have to give it a 9, but I would just like to give this a caveat because of the fact that anytime that they try to do this again, or any disc tries to do this again, I am going to take a cue from like ESPN and say, come on, man, because that is exactly how I feel about this. This is a come on, man. Give us at least a DTS HD 7.1 track or something. Come on, man. So let's get into the Dolby Atmos. That's what we all want to hear about. You know what? I love Dolby Atmos. You guys know that. And I really do love this track. It doesn't live up to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, just because I don't feel like there is as much going on in this movie as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I don't think that this movie was actually thought of to have like this big scope. I feel like the scope of this movie is kind of tempered down, and for that, I feel like the Dolby Atmos is kind of tempered down, but if you meet it at its own level, the same thing with the 5.1 track, this is pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. The bass definitely kicks in with this score, and it definitely is a noticeable difference from that 5.1 track. The overall field of sound is so much greater here, and that is a welcome change. And just the overall frequency levels are just so much more robust, and man, I still do really like this track. You get a decent amount of work in the height speakers when Spidey is flinging his webs. You can hear it all above. And hey, when Vulture is looming up above you, you definitely hear that in those height speakers. And it's not something that's subtle, it's something that's very pronounced, and that's something that you want from this. So with that in mind, I'll have to give this a 9 out of 10 as well. I don't feel like it's like a come on, man. But at the same point in time, I can't give it a 10 out of 10. I try to save that for reference quality material, and this isn't reference quality, this is just one notch lower. So that's why I gave it a 9. But next, we're going to be getting into the special features for Spider-Man Homecoming. And hey, can Marvel get out of the slope of having just crappy special features? You'll find out next. So the special features for Spider-Man Homecoming. Anybody, and I mean anybody that thought that this was going to be the release to snap Marvel out of that lack of special features chain that they are in, you are sorely mistaken, because we have just around the same amount of special features that we get from every other Marvel release, and that unfortunately is not that much. One thing that is cool is a pop-up trivia that comes with the movie, and it is very cool to see the relationships in the movie and how they relate to the comic books. It definitely is, you know what, the most inventive thing that this release did as far as special features goes. All the featurettes here are relatively small, so I'll just lump them into one discussion. You know, you have a featurette that deals with the stunts that went into this movie. Tom Holland did a lot of his stunts, and that definitely shows with the movie itself. There is a fairly short featurette that goes into the Vulture and Michael Keaton and his motivations. There are a total of 10 deleted scenes, but none of them feel like they actually belong in this movie. You know, this is just the typical Marvel trope here, where they just give a bare bones amount of special features that don't really say much, that's just slapped together and then thrown at us. And yes, that is a come on, man! But still, it is a 6 out of 10. This is just standard. They can do better, but it's not the worst. So next, we're going to be getting into the last looks of Spider-Man Homecoming, and that is coming up to you guys next. So my last looks at Spider-Man Homecoming. This is a very strong introduction for Tom Holland as Spider-Man. You know, he was in Civil War, but he wasn't the main focus of that movie. He is the main focus here, and he still has what he had in Civil War. He has a innocent quality to him and a just wiry kind of energy to him that makes him a perfect Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I like how Marvel mixed it up here by giving him some new, very diverse friends, and I like how this just feels like a welcome home for Spider-Man. It's called Spider-Man Homecoming. This is very much a homecoming for Spider-Man. And even though I had some problems with the fact that it literally felt like two different movies that were squished into one, I did give it a 7 out of 10. If you guys didn't check out my movie review for the movie itself, go check that out. I'll post the link down below and make it easy for you guys. But that did get a 7 out of 10, which brings the total scores for both the Blu-ray and the 4K Blu-ray to a 30 out of 10. That isn't bad. That is actually pretty damn good, but at the same point in time, it does feel like Marvel definitely needs to step it up in their special features. I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it until they do. So what's coming up next for you guys? You know, I have some horror to get into. I definitely feel like you guys need me to go into some horror films, so that's what's coming up next. I'm going to be getting those to you guys real damn quick with rapid succession. I'm just going to run through them. And I also will be going to theaters for Thor Ragnarok and Justice League. Those are two major releases that I will be reviewing for you guys in theaters, and I hope you guys will join me for them. And people, I want to know what you felt about Spider-Man Homecoming. I want to know what you felt about this Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. Comment below, let me know, and subscribe. Thank you for watching so early on. You guys are great, and I will see all of you next time.